the overlay on this whip here. So this one's going to have an overlay in 275 paracord.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start with white because this is going to be black with white rings. So, start off with just a 4-plate because this is an additive build. This is the top layer of the whip. So, one nice part with a slip style knot is you can kind of get it suspended from the English eye at the tip of the whip. And the core I'm braiding on has a double piece of 275 with an English eye for the nose of the whip. But I need to build layers pretty fast when I have to add in as I go. So, okay, so I've got 2 fingers, so 2 finger widths, a couple inches in, put a pin in it. The nice part about doing a reverse build, you can measure off the strands that are existent. And each new strand, or each new pair of strands, needs to be as long as the ones hanging. And this is 275 paracord that still has the guts in it. Strip the guts. So I'm going to try and zoom in a little bit so you can see what I'm working on. I'm not the best at working the camera. So there's some 4-plate of 275 paracord, and I'm taking the guts out of some black. Because I'm going to add four strands to it, so this pattern is going to go 4-plate, 8-plate, 12-plate, 16-plate. Then we'll go to 20-plate, then 24-plate. All within the next 1.5 feet. This is an extremely short little whip that's tungsten shot loaded. So it's about as short as I can build a bullwhip. It's 2.5 feet and 6 inches of it is handle. But it has tungsten in it to add more mass or more weight to the whip so that it is easier to control and throw. I try and show my process to people because people always ask, how do you do that? It's like, well, I set up a YouTube channel, so I'm going to share how I go about doing stuff, I guess. Let people see. So you start off with 2.5 feet and 2.5 feet and 2.5 feet. So each strand to start with is about 7.5 feet. On each side. So that makes about 15 foot in length. Roughly. And there's 2 of them to start with. That's the white that you see. And people ask what I do with the paracord guts, and if you guys have ideas for something to do, or you want a bunch of paracord guts and scraps, let me know. But there's the guts from the paracord scraps. So I've got a little hook over here. I'm going to find the center of this. You need 10.5 the length, so is a good rule of thumb. So I've got the center bites here. So I lay the center bites across the core, kind of pin them back. Put the pin up there so I don't lose it. And then I'm going to take the top strand. I'm going to go under the strand I should, and now I'm going to under 2 over 2 on this side. And the top white strand. I'm going to go under 2 on the other side. Under 2 over 2. Under 2 over 2. So now this will make rings of white and black, and this is going to be a ringed whip. And to keep the pattern even, I have to bump it by 4. 2 strands and 2 strands, which makes it a little challenging to keep the pattern. Now this strand is loose. But it's just a simple under 2 over 2. I'm not working with high tension here at the tip of the whip. But there's no strands to drop by doing a reverse build. So you'll see there's rings of black and white. And I'm going to keep adding black until I get to the end of the whip where there'll just be rings of white. 8 to 12. And then I need to go 12 to 16. All in very short order to get the taper right on this. And it's because this is 275 paracord. It's very fine. It's a little less than 1/8 of an inch. Shut the guts out of it. Now I can start tucking down on the dark strands here a little bit. You don't want to overseat it because you can invert the strand or pull it out. And that isn't really the goal here. And because I'm trying to ramp this up so quickly, once I get black on the bottom, I'm using the white as a reference so whenever the white or the colored strands come to the top. So I've got a little, right about 2 fingers and 2 fingers. I'm going to put a pin in it. Pull some black. Measure it off against the strands of white. So that will make enough for one of the strands. And I'm going to cut the guts out of or pull the guts out of this. So I'm going to pull the guts out of some paracord. If you snug it back, pull this out and tie a knot. That'll keep the strands even. Pull another 2 feet. I like the whipmaker cord a little better than this 275 cord because the 275 is rougher on the hands and doesn't lay as flat, it's more round. It has 5 strands of nylon in it. And if you burrito it up, you can keep from tangling your feet on the excess material and keep it neat in case somebody wants a spool of it. All right. I'm going to find the center bite of these 2 strands and cut them into 2 strands. Tuck these 2 underneath. Against the cord, you undo the needle. you're doing is you're going to take the top white strand, going under those two and one of the new strands. Leave the white strand and then two more black ones. A black one, a white one of the new strands. Sorry, you need two black ones on top of the white one. And then you have two black ones on top of the white one. Okay. Is this one attached? Yes, it is. I can seat that one under 3/3. Is this one attached? Yes, it is. Under 3/3. This one will be loose, so really loosely plait it. Snug it just a touch. Under 3/3. Back to the white strand, seat it. Under 3/3. Seat it. Under 3/3. Nope, don't pull that one. It's trying to move. Three. Don't pull this one. Under 3/3. Under 3/3. The white one back on top. So we've done a whole pass. Now there's a white and two blacks. A white and two blacks. Okay, so now I've got another 2 inches with 12. Get them ready to untangle the ends. I'm going to seat all these strands. Not real hard, maybe 20 pounds, which is a little harder on your hands with this cord than 550 cord. This is a tungsten shot-loaded 2.5 foot overall mini bullwhip. Put a pin in it. Grab your cord. And it off against the white strands. Check the 275 paracord. Well, that's interesting. Okay, problem with my camera setup. Let's adjust that. Adjust it this way. That way maybe we can get it back on where it needs to be. Hello there, this truck with pocket snakes. I'm adding the overlay onto this whip. So, and in order to keep this ringed pattern, I have to add 4 strands at a time. This is an additive inverse build, which I've done for a bit. Now, onto 16 plate. That's under 4/4. Under 4/4. Under 4/4. Under 4/4. This one's attached, so under 4/4. Take the black one. It's kind of from the back. Under 4/4. Under 4. is. Oops. Go back to black. Go back to the white on top. This is 275 paracord I'm working with here. And this is a 16 plat, simple under half over half. Just making a ringed snake pattern down the whip. Okay. And I might be able to get away with going one more pass. Although this is pretty horizontal. You can see the ringed pattern that's forming. So I'm going to snug these up. And the belly that I'm braiding over right now is whipmaker cord. The reason for the jump in diameter is because I had to braid over the previous belly. And there's your pattern. Grab the black. paracord gets. Okay, so we're 16 going to 20. Okay. So I got 3. Pull up the top. The ones I tucked and under the white. So now we're under 5 over 5. Under 5 over 5. Under 5. Over 5. Over 5. Get the white one back on top. We have to lay this one parallel. You can catch any of your braiding mistakes as you go. Saves you a lot of time unbraiding to get back to where you can fix them. So one neat thing, you have a piece that's out of sorts. trying to keep all this braiding lined up with the core as you go. And that way the whip rolls how you want it to. If the two layers lock together, it helps the directionality of the whip. If you want it to be less directional, roll the whip a bunch. It'll become much more omnidirectional. Okay, snug all these layers down. There's 10 strands on each side. But even in frame, yeah, I'm still in frame. That's good. I wasn't sure. I can't really see the camera while I'm doing this. So. Okie dokie. So. Pretty cool. That's where we're at. We're at 20. Now we're probably going to go to 24. Now I need to take this from 20 to 24. We're starting to get to where it's more complicated. Okay. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. Gotta go over the white one, tug this one into place, and then lay it flat. Now we're at under 6/6. Now it starts getting to be a challenge. You've got 12 strands on the left and 12 strands on the right. And I'm guessing that this whip at the end is going to have 32. Because the next step up from 24 is 28, because you go up by 4 to keep the pattern straight. Okay. Make sure you tuck that strand exactly where you want it. Because it's a doubled strand. Okay, so we've got the other loose strand on both sides. So whip that you make in 550 paracord that's 16 plate will end up being about 32 plate in 275 paracord for the same diameter. Okay, I'm going to tuck these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Put a pin in it. The nice part with 275 paracord is you can put a pin in it and you can see the pattern. It's a bunch of rings. And I missed the pin because it's black on black. Right now we're a foot into a 2.5 foot whip. So if you have questions, please ask away. It's so if you have questions, I'm giving my hands a break for a minute here and cutting the next 2 strands. If you type in some questions, I'll try and answer them here. I'm just getting ready to shuck another 2 strands. Thank you guys for coming and watching me braid. It's not the most exciting thing. But Excuse my English, I'm French. Your English is fine. You're a 26. I see you. I'm behind the camera right this second, so I can see the comment stream. And I'm checking another 2 strands worth and making like a burrito. Out of the guts from the 275. Okay. Okay. Checking these 2 strands up. Now I'm going to go down, pick up one of these 2 strands that I just pumped in, and then move the white strand over the second strand. So that's under 7, over 7. And then over here to pick up the top one of the 2 and the white. And I've got 14 on each side, which is 28 plate. I have to remember to come pick up, quickly remember to pick up that black strand. Under 7 over 7. Seven over 7. This one's attached, so I'm snugging it down. This one is free, not attached. The white one, snug it down, lay it in parallel. This one is also not very attached. It just runs straight through. We're just going to lay it gently in the same pattern. Because the core is going up in size is why I'm adding more strands. Check the camera here. And that layer hasn't been fully seated yet. But you can kind of press things in to make sure that they're aligning. Yes, so I'm hanging it from an English eye, and by adding the strands of material to the whip, it means there's nothing to come loose because everything is loops. How do you avoid tendonitis? Aikido stretches are a great way to avoid tendonitis and not breathing for 16 hours straight. I've been breathing for an hour and 7 minutes, and here's where we're at. So, and I got smudges on the glass, so see if I can use a lens wipe to help. Sorry, guys. I don't know if that's any better. Might be. It's just a different way of building whip. Means you don't have to hide drop strands, and you're just adding strands. Either way you do this kind of whip building, there's advantages and disadvantages. Now overall, this is a 2.5 foot whip, and in 16 inches I've gone from 4 plate to 28 plate. So there's 28 strands, there's 14 on the left, 14 on the right. And that's because my core size is getting bigger, especially down here. And I want to take out as much of the bump as I go up in diameter by adding my strands in before I hit the maximum kind of diameter. Like I said, this whip's probably going to finish off at 32 plate. So half of this whip will be roughly 32 plate, or will be 32 plate. Roughly half of it will be. But that means in roughly 15 inches or 18 inches, or less than 18 inches. You can do the same. Oh, you're welcome for the answers. You can do a reverse build with paracord. So, yeah, 32. So right now we're at 28. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And down here's another 7. So 7 and 7 and 7 and 7. That makes 14 here, 14 there. 32 is only going up 4 more. But in order to keep this ringed pattern going, you either have to drop strands 4 at a time, 2 from either side of 2 in this section, 2 in this section, or you have to add 2 in this, 1 on the left, 1 on the right, 1 on the left, 1 on the right in each of these black sections. And so that's a lot of strands to drop at once or a lot of strands to add at once. You don't have to do it unless you want to keep this ringed pattern going. This is a ringed snake or ringed bullwhip, and it's tungsten shot loaded. So it has about 4 ounces of shot. So that's 120 grams to you in France or in the rest of the world. 120 grams shot load in about 10 inches of this whip to help it drive when you flick it. And I've got a bunch of videos on here. I just started doing live streams back end of last year for those people interested who are whip makers and have an interest in the subject of whip making. Because they're like, how in the world do you do that? And it's like, well, let me show you exactly how I do it. It's not the most exciting thing I do, but mostly that's what I do is braid whips. Once in a while I do leather ones and I get a lot more people interested in that. But this is 275 paracord, so it's kind of interesting stuff. And the core, let's see if I can get this closer. This core is whip maker cord, which is half the thickness and a little bit wider than this material. So very similar to 550 paracord, but a lot smaller in diameter. So but I've got a bunch of different links on here. I do a little bit of rawhide work. I do a little bit of leather work that's braided. Oh, you thought it was leather? Yeah, no, this is 275 paracord. It's nylon parachute cord that you can pick up. It's a little bit bigger than accessory cord. You can also braid out of accessory cord. But in Arizona or in the Southwest, the leather, if you don't oil it and keep on top of the maintenance, it eats itself up. What diameter do I use? No. So this is the 275 paracord. So this is 275 paracord. And here's a micrometer. So it's like 2 millimeter or in inches. It's 0.0850 inches. Now, that has the core in it, so if you grab it and crush it in here, it lays down to 0.0295 millimeters. So, or sorry, it's a 32nd of an inch when it's crushed down, and in millimeters is 0.7, 0.75, 0.73 crushed. When it has in diameter, see if I can catch it, it's 2.5, 2.4 millimeters, or 3/32 of an inch. And I try and work in thousandths of an inch, or work in fractions of millimeters to keep things consistent. So I've got a couple more inches before the diameter swells right here, because there's a bolster here, and then there's another bolstered area down here. So when I hit the bolster, I want to be at 32, and that way I can just stay at 32 on down. So I'm going to make another pass here, try to, and I'll come back and answer questions. But if you want to save your hands some wear and tear, you might consider Aikido stretches, like the wrist stretches you would use for Aikido. Limber up the size. Like I said before, this is a very, very short whip. This whip is 30 inches long when it's done. So. But thank you for the questions. Yeah, you use 550. You can try one. You can mix 550 and 275 paracord. So you can add a real thin trace of a color. And I've blended 550 and 275. It does okay. Because the thicknesses are similar. But you can get this material. Mind you, at 28 or 32 plate, you're using twice as many feet to cover the same as a 16 plate. 550. I think it yields a little bit better roll, but it allows you to do finer patterning, and I like the overall result. And I'm not putting a tremendous amount of tension as I plate. I'm pulling with about 30, 35 pounds of pressure to seat the strands here. And I'll go up higher as I get to the transition area around the handle. But I also did that with the belly that's below, that's whipmaker cord. I'm not the fastest at plaiting, but I try and be very precise with my pull angles and how I lay the strands and keep the strain management very flat so I don't cross any strands. I'll try not to cross any strands. Come back to answer some questions, but you can see it's coming together. I've got a lot of different paracords. Do you want to see my rack of paracords and stuff? The pin holds the tension in it. It pins it in place so that I don't, when I let go, it doesn't fall. I don't normally spend a lot of time showing people stuff, but so this is a piece of, you can see the spools. That's leather mostly. And then this is spools of cracker making material and a bunch more spools of paracord. Between this rack, which is that square grid that you use for setting up a booth, and those are the long 1-foot hooks. They'll hold a spool of paracord, 550 paracord, where I use 650 because I don't want to have to peel it if I can avoid peeling the core out. But I've got in paracord probably, I don't know, 30 solid colors. And I've probably got 25 miles, 20 miles of paracord sitting there. So that's like 5,000 feet, 5 spools times 20. So there's 100 spools of paracord and 100 spools of leather lace. Try not to knock my camera too far out of whack. Problem with being a single person trying to do this stuff is you run out of hands. Trying to run the camera, answer questions, and braid, but I figure that all told, for the overlay alone on this whip, I'll be at probably close to 3 hours, an hour a foot at 32 plate. But you can get some ideas to the taper, you know. It tapers on down to an 1/8 inch or so. Kind of cool. Oh, you're welcome. I don't have a lot of backup of some of the colors, but black I've got like 5 spools, and it's just how I organize my stock. I'll give you an idea as to one cheap method for hanging spools instead of a spool rack. I think it's $50 for 25 of those square grid long hangers for hanging whatever you're vending or whatever. I'm not a big vendor, but they're great for spools because they'll hold a whole spool of paracord, and you can de-spool as much as you want. And if there's a way to knock the camera, I've generally figured it out. Well, thank you for joining me. I'm braiding a whip. I'm about to go to 32 plate from 16, or sorry, 32 plate from 28. So I'm going to add 4 more strands here. Okay, so come down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm going to pick up this one that I just stuck, so that's 8 in the top. Bump the white one over the new strand and lay those flat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Get the top of the new strands and pick up the white one. So that's 8. Lay these flat. Lay the new strand and lay them flat. Underneath the new looser strands, lay it flat. This one's this strand. I'm going to test pull on this, and that one's this strand. And then I've got the added strand to do. It's the black added strand from the right. Goes around under 8/8. Black added strand comes around under 8/8. And the white strand from the top. And the white strand from the top. Okay, so that one's the loose strand. Lay it in place. It's a new strand as well. Now we're humming along at 32 plate. I shouldn't have to add any more. I can run the rest of this whip at 32. snugs down the new strand. So they're on opposite sides of this white strand. There's the white strand seated. This is the other one that needs seated. Okay, give my hands a break for a minute. A little bit crowded here, but it bumps up, the diameter bumps up right in here. So that's why I added it where I did, and there's another diameter bump right here. Each of those bumps is 2 millimeters because it's 550 cord in the center. And compressed flat 550 cords a millimeter on each side. So 32 plate, 275 paracord, mini bullwhip, tungsten shot. This one up here should tuck in, which it did. bug me. I've only been braiding for a couple hours, so that makes sense. And it might look like I'm jerking on these. I'm actually just pulling them till they stop. Until they stop moving. It's pretty smooth. You can feel it in your fingers. Don't jerk them because you'll mess up a lot of stuff. You get the wrong angle, you'll mess up increase the odds you're going to cross a strand. Okay. I'm going to put a pin in it there for a bit. Pretty cool. Yep. I like it. It's making progress. So I'm down to 13 or 14 inches. But if you like whip braiding and making things, and you can subscribe if you'd like. It's been an hour and 50 minutes, but my hands are talking to me. And you're at 26. Asked me earlier how I keep my hands from bugging me, and the answer is, I braid a couple hours in a day. Yeah. But if you like what I'm doing, I'm going to go wash my hands or clean up my hands a little bit, put a little lotion on them, and let it set for a couple minutes. I'll come back and answer some questions here for a bit. So jot me some notes if you have some questions. Just give me a few minutes and or a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I'm gonna grab some lotion. I didn't see the question about the handle. The aim of the handle is to add some fulcrum and some speed to the whip. I think the person just liked the looks of it, but if you have a 2.5-foot whip that's a snake whip, it's a little harder to send than a 6-inch handle on a 30-inch whip. So. Do you have a favorite material for crackers? So the answer is yes. My favorite material is this, which is Spectra. So this is a 360-pound Spectra line. It's a Dalmatian for crackers. It's smaller than the 275 paracord. Or this is 400-pound braided Vectran line. Makes fabulous crackers. It's hard to see. It's a braided material. It's hard to catch it on the light because it's black. There's not a lot of literature on crackers. I think crackers are mostly an afterthought for most people. I've spent way more time and will have way deeper conversations with you guys about crackers than anybody wants to tolerate. But check out my tapered Snapdragon crackers. There's videos on here for how I make braided tapered Snapdragons, like the flower. Because that's the name I came up with for the braided tapered crackers. And I Brummel locked the eyes on them. But I like Aramid, like Kevlar. There's a lot of great cracker materials that are durable. The Spectra is nice though because it's long lasting and easy to deal with. It's longer lasting than nylon. But you're welcome to reach out to me. You can email Pocket Snakes at pocketsnakes.com. It's pretty easy. It's Pocket Snakes, like snakes you fit in your pocket, at pocketsnakes.com. And I'm more than happy to have a whole conversation, or I might even send you my phone number and you can talk to me on the phone. I've also got a Discord where I can connect with people. I think it's the Discord /Pocket Snakes. And I can talk to people on that. But so it's been about 8 minutes, and I put on some heavy lotion. You can kind of see it's shiny on my hands still. but it's got a waxy base to this oil salve that I use on my hands. It helps soothe my hands. I'm going to plug away a little longer at this. So, are you still there? Yeah. First time you heard about Spectra? Well, Spectra is the brand name, and it's mostly used for bulletproof materials. Dyneema is another name for the same material, basically. Ultra high molecular weight polyethylene, or UHMPE, is another name for the same chemical material. Or HMPE, high molecular weight polyethylene. Absolutely. But if you email me, I might send you my phone number. You can call me, talk to me about crackers. Please check out don't stop watching this, but please check out. Yeah, Dyneema is mostly used for rope. And you'll see competitors that aren't buying it from. So I believe that Spectra, with the trademark, is a trademarked fiber, and it was trademarked as Spectra by Honeywell. I could have that wrong. And Dyneema's another brand name. So, but the patents ran out for the 20-year patents or whatever. So other companies were making ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. So do you have your pencil? Because I'll give you a name of a website to look for really cool cordage to make into crackers. I think it's called Twine, TWINE -line, LINE.com, or twineline.com is a company that sells braided, the products are braided in the United States, I believe, or most of their products are braided here. And they have a bunch of stuff, but it's twineline.com. And 400 pound makes a good cracker for anything from a 3 to about a 12-foot bullwhip, as long as it doesn't exceed a pound in overall weight. You can double it up with 400 pound and have a great cracker for a 16-foot bullwhip. I usually half double them, but I Brummel splice the eyes so that the eyes don't collapse. See if I can find you a cracker to look at. I take a lot of breaks for my feet. So this is Vectran. So this is that Vectran material. It's kind of a silver gray, and that's the feather on the end. But you'll see it's twice as thick here as it is here. So it has a stiffer section. This is about a 12-inch long cracker, so it's a little longer than normal, but to keep it from tangling as much, half of it's doubled, and it carries energy better. And then the eyes splice onto English eyes like so. And then I make them in matched pairs. This is unfeathered, and this is if you feather it. So on this whip, I made the eye out of 275 paracord. You can make the eye out of Spectra, but the Spectra brand name cord I have is white, and it tends to snag on things and then not be pretty in 6 months. And the 275 paracord holds a better eye. And this is 260-pound Spectra or 260-pound ultra high molecular weight polyethylene as a cracker. And these aren't feathered, but you might be able to see. So it's a hollow braid, and it also is doubled halfway to about here. And then this, and about that much of it will feather, about 2.5, 3 inches. Will feather on its own, and it'll just tangle and not keep feathering. This is the 500-pound, or sorry, this is an eye of 275 paracord. And if you use this as a cracker, it's going to come apart in short order. It won't last. Not like the other materials. But if you have a hollow braid, you can do a lot of cool stuff. What kind of whips do you guys like making? I'm going to show you more of the whip. So that's where we're at so far. It doesn't want to stay. Figures. And there's my quality control. He's carefully watching what I'm doing. His name's Sammy. Little corgi. Corgi. Yep. Hi, Sammy. Yeah, I mean, yeah, his name's Sammy. As long as I'm sitting here relaxing, I'll let you guys see him. He's cute. See the camera, Sammy? He likes his whips. He barks and dances and chases whips. He's 12. That's a box of bundles of leather that's beveled and a big spool of leather. That dog is fun. It keeps me from losing my mind some of the days. This tripod works better if I actually tighten it up. there's another bump that's right in here that goes up 2 millimeters in diameter right here. So this will be a little wider than this as we go up. But if you pull tight and plat loose, your hands will like you better. You know, you're not actually tightening it till just before you lay it. Your hands will like you a lot better tomorrow. You find workarounds, otherwise you won't have hands. You try and plate things tight as heck as you go. You don't allow stuff to float enough. A lot of people tear their hands up and quit because they've blistered the heck out of their hands. Not saying you won't blister your hands, but if you don't want it crushing your spirit of wanting to braid, I recommend pull gently or pull tight, but then plat loosely or plate loosely. I'm self-taught at this, so I didn't have a mentor or somebody to go to. And I didn't know the internet had whip braiders. So I came up with a bunch of different ways and reinvented a lot of wheels. But I learned a lot of things along the way. And I swore that when I met other people that made whips, I would share how I do the things I do with anybody that was interested. Because the world needs more creators. I think that's the right way to be. And it's a dying art form. So I don't want it to die out. I want people to be making whips. Really nice whips and really have pride in what they do. Everything good takes time. You will always know if you rushed something instead of took the time to lay every strand how you wanted it. And if you do that, then it'll kind of haunt your dreams the rest of your life if you're conscientious. So I try never to rush what I do. And sometimes there's weeks at a time where I can't get my brain to wrap around braiding. It just doesn't want to work. It's like, okay, go fly a kite. It'll be more productive than plaiting or braiding. I've always got other things I should be doing, probably. And there's fancier patterns. This one's just one of my favorites. It's rings, makes it like a ringed snake all the way down the whip. And somebody chose the white and black. I like white and black. I've got fluorescent green and fluorescent yellow and burgundy and a lot of other colors. I think the last one of these I did was red and black or burgundy and black. Somebody asked me to do a whip last year. And they wanted white with black rings. So this one's black with white rings because that's what this person wanted. They told me about Christmas time they wanted this. So it takes me a couple months to get to this point sometimes because I'm busy enough that I have more braiding work than I have me, and I can't hire somebody because there's not enough money in it. And the work being done by somebody else will never match what I'm doing. And if they are matching what I'm doing, they should be doing it on their own instead of helping me out. started shooting some live videos because I was shooting with a video camera or a cell phone, and I'd shoot for hours, and then I'd go to edit it, and it'd take me hours to push it and put it into a file, and then I'd upload it. It'd take a couple hours to upload. I realized I left all my mistakes in what I was doing anyway. Why, I'm not editing anything out. Why not just do it live? I might say a ridiculous thing or two, but that's on me. I try and do the best job I can on everything I do. And I make more mistakes than most people, but I think that making mistakes are where all the learning is. So let yourself make mistakes and try stuff that you know isn't going to work, and then envision how you can make it work. That's how you figure it out. At least how I like to look at it. And I may be live now, but I might, if I walk away from this, I might not be back till tomorrow, or I might come back at midnight or 2 in the morning. But it's when I have time, and I have to do most of this work when the house is quiet and nobody is here but the dogs. Because there's no television in the background, I don't have to worry about copyright strikes, and I don't run the radio for the same reason, which I think is silly, but I understand. I thought about getting a paint noise or brown noise generator to just listen to in the background, because I find that soothing. Some people like to listen to me sit and talk, but I think I talk too much. But it's better than listening to the cord go through my fingers, I think. And when you get up to 32 strands or 48 strands of this material, you really have to watch that you keep it flat against the core and that you pin it with one thumb or the other, or you'll flip a strand. It's a lot easier to do with the roundish 275 cord than it is with the 550 cord. Just trying to keep all the strands in order as you go. Because having to unbraid half a whip because you missed a stitch somewhere up above is enough to drive you kind of crazy. So. But yeah, being able to put a pin in it is useful. Now down here, this is a steel rod from here all the way to the end, so about 6 inches. Yeah, I don't like the TV that much. Yeah, if you'd like one of the beaded lizards, they're really cool. They're a silicone beaded whip, and they have a Spectra core or a ultra high molecular weight polyethylene core. They are an interesting whip. They are amazing, even at the 2.5 foot length. The shortest one's 2.5 foot. With a flick of your wrist, it makes a nice sound. I've been making them on and off for the last year. They're something that came out of my head because I was building whips. And I got hold of a new material with those silicone beads, which are tough as nails. The silicone beaded whips are pretty neat. Would you guys like to see one of those? So this is a 3-foot silicone beaded lizard whip in black. I've got different colors, red and yellow and stuff. But it's pretty good. You can hear that the dog is like here to say hi and say yes, he likes whips. Hi, Sammy. You like whips? Oh, shush. I know, my fault for cracking a whip. But it's shockingly cool. This is a 3-footer. And it goes from like a 6mm bead all the way up to 1.25 inches. I've got it in the wrong position to even show you. And the black plastic bags are full of rawhide. Isn't that kind of a cool whip? Hi, puppies. Oh, you want outside? Not just the bark at whips? Okay. Got you outside. Come on. Tim Boughton. What did you think about the little whip? Was that cool? Yeah, I might have lost you. Non-conventional, yeah. They are very interesting. I can also make a bullwhip version if you really want one, or a sport hybrid version of a whip. A bullwhip's hard to do because the balls have like a 2mm hole, so it's not really conducive to a handle on the silicone beads. But surprisingly, the core of that little whip that's so good is the core of that little whip has like 4 layers or 5. Well, let's see. There's 6 concentric layers with a tiny English eye on the end of that little silicone whip. And the price is reasonable because it's a lot less work and wear and tear on my hands than hand plating a 32 plate, 2.5 foot long bullwhip like I'm doing here. Like this is my third day working on this whip or fourth day working on this whip, and it's only 2.5 feet. Part of that is my hands, and part of it is the belly took me yesterday most of the day to do. And of course the dogs want back in because I'm talking about whips, and he gets really excited when you crack a whip. The dog I had before was terrified of whips, and so when I got him as a pup a dozen years ago, I taught him to like that it was exciting and fun to be outside and play with whips. So unfortunately I created a monster. You crack a whip, he comes running and he wants to play and jump and try and catch the whip. And makes it hard because I can't crack a whip in my own neighborhood or my own house without him losing his ever-loving mind. Feeling like I'm getting so close because I'm down to the last 6 inches almost. But I don't know that I'm going to be able to finish this. My hands are. So 550 and 275 paracord are both very abrasive on your skin. The Whipmaker cord is a lot smoother. And it's similar to this 275 paracord. It's 3/16 of an inch. So. And as I come over this transition area, I'm putting about 30 pounds, 35 pounds of force on these strands to seat them. And I'll really crank down on the ones over the steel handle just to make sure all that tension gets locked into the transition. I did the same with the underlay or the belly. This has one plated belly and it has one double spiral wrapped bolster just to give it a little bit of shape and distinctive taper. And to help start building tension, because whips basically are all work on tension. It's like hard to push a rope, and whips are basically fancy rope. One more past the 32. Put a pin in it. Pretty neat compared. And this isn't even rolled. This is just laid. You can see this line of stitching in the center. So, sorry about that. Yes, the core for the other one. The beaded lizard is not braided. It is made with silicone beads over the top of a multi-layer concentric core of braided spectra material. So the core is 3 millimeters at its thickest, and like half a millimeter at its thinnest where the English eye is. The material is 260 pounds of, it would be the breaking strength. So, or 280 pounds of breaking strength. So it has a little tiny English eye, and then you hook your cracker into it. But yes, and it's assembled whip, so the beads are pulled onto the core, which is a bit of a trick, because trying to pull something bigger into silicone beads is a whole thing. And then having the selection of beads and the colors you want is a big thing. But feel free to order one. They're pretty reasonable. I think that they're under $75, I think, for the shortest ones on my website. It's just pocketsnakes.com. But they're a fantastic whip. The 4-foot is even easier to throw and louder, but it's longer. The only thing that holds the beads in place is the compression that the beads create on the core. And the beads hold the core in both compression and in tension at the same time, which is why it works so well. But you're doing the same thing here. Each of these strands is compressing the core of the whip, and each layer adds compaction to that core. But it also works because the tension is held in place too. So you have compression this way and tension. So when you pull the whip, it's very efficient as it moves. Same thing for that little tiny, those silicone bead whips. And they move really well, and the core has almost no stretch, but then it's under tension because the beads are compressed against each other. A lot of people have been fascinated with those. Yeah, I mean, you can look at my core builds for like this whip or other 275 paracord whips. It's just imagining it. Out of, say, this material, right? And comparing it to, like, this is 3/32 of an inch compared to this material. So this is Spectra / ultra high molecular weight polyethylene. Incredibly strong. But like, I don't know, this material is like 2.5 millimeters. Now when it's empty, you can crush it to 0.76, 3/4 of a millimeter. This material is 1/3 that thickness. So it's 0.25, 0.26 in thickness. Much, much thinner. And that allows me to build layer upon layer upon layer, pulled through itself. And the main point of the core is to create a little bit a little bit bigger, like where the beads are bigger, have the compression, be able to grab that core a little better and crush it more, because when you're pulling on a bead, the next bead has to hold still or they slide off the end, and the smallest beads do tend to work themselves down the whip. There's a sheath of nylon that I put over the top of the entire core that I build with the English eye in it for that beaded whip, and the nylon actually holds the beads better, but it just makes the whole assembly process complicated. It took me a month of prototyping, a little over a year ago. So, I mean, everything I do is kind of different than how everybody else does it, I guess. Like I said, I'm self-taught. I learn more from my failures than my successes, but I think that's true of most human beings. Let's see if I can give you an idea as to what this whip looks like. So that goes from 4-plate, where it's white up at the top, down to 32 here. And this is in the transition area because this handle stops right here. Yeah, you learn a lot through your failures if you pay attention to your failures. Like, to give you guys an idea, up here, we're at a 5 point, that's the same diameter as paracord, is 5 millimeters. Down here we're 20 millimeters, so 3/4 of an inch down here and 1/4 of an inch up there, 5 millimeters to 20. So and everybody does things differently. I say this is how I go about doing stuff. I don't believe that there's one right way to do things. And I have to admit, if I'm being honest, I make stuff all sorts of different ways. This happens to be how I prefer to make short whips, because any tucked strand can be pulled out or dislodged. And it gives you some ideas to the taper of this whip over 2.5 feet. It's gone from 4-plate to 32-plate, and it's gone from the loop out on the end is 3/32. And it's 3/4 of an inch. 20 millimeters is about 3/4 of an inch. Because 25 millimeters would be an inch at the handle. But the neat part is all the strands that are there, when you get off the end of the handle and you cut it off and you weld it and put your, melt it all together, weld it after sewing it together or pinning it together with a build-up and a heel knot, the end of this whip, there are no loose ends. So there's nothing to fray and come apart. And that's kind of nice. Do you guys have any more questions for me? Well, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you guys. Why am I breeding in reverse? So The reason is I can put a center bite or a loop on each time. So like up here, it's at 4 strands. It's at 4 strands, and that's tied off there. And then I add 2 strands on the center bite that are the same length as the 4 white strands. And then I add 4 more, and 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 add 4 more to get to 32. And it creates a pretty nice, fairly smooth taper. The biggest bump is where you go from the core to the belly, and I can't help that bump because that's the thinnest thing I have to braid with, which is half millimeter thick stuff. So there's nothing to come apart with this design. You can shuck the core back. It's actually, believe it or not, this particular core is floating. So like if you grab the cover on the outside or the braid and hold on to the cracker, you can actually shuck that whip back almost a foot and then pull it back into place. And so it free floats. Each of the layers free floats. There's nothing tied together or tied down. And so each of the layers floats so that if need be, you can just kind of replace or tuck up in a new English eye, etc. for repairs. At 2.5 feet, it's not dragging the ground. But there's reasons to do everything. And I make all sorts of whips, even whips that I don't have on my website. I just set up the website because I thought that people might want to get themselves one of the things they see me making. And I haven't shown how to make the beaded whips because somebody will probably knock them off and make 1 million of them for $10 a piece when they can buy the parts cheaper than I can. But it's a lot of balancing to build one. You have to figure out what the roll rate of each of the beads is to make that an efficient whip. Well, thank you guys very much. I'm gonna give my hands a break.